For this video, we're going to be talking about how you can do a little bit of editing on many of your assets that you added to your timeline. So we're going to focus first on type assets. So you can see here I have a couple type layers. These are added from the text option that's built into Wevideo. When you point to any item in your timeline, you're going to get this little hamburger menu pop up, and it's going to give you some editing options that you can choose. Each one's a little different, but in a text you can see there's an open clip editor, and if I click on this, you're going to get this little editing screen here. Now I'm going to cancel, and I'm going to do this again by double clicking. So if I double click, you can see that automatically brings in to the editor. A few things you can do. First and foremost, notice that you have options to do some rotating if you wanted to. You notice how the text will change. You can do some flipping. Could be an unusual thing, especially if you want it backwards, but you can see the different options for flipping. And then of course, the scale. So if you want this to be larger, you want it to be smaller, and what it's doing is it's physically scaling the whole frame that makes up the text. So let's put it back to 1, which is default to the size of the frame. Likewise, position. Now you can certainly come in here and type in some XY values, but the easiest route would just be coming over to your preview area and just grab it and move it. You can see as I move these that the X and Y are basically changing as I drag it. I want to go back to the basics, just reset it. It'll put it back in the middle. Now, if you do make a modification, saving the changes will save it. Let's go back up to the top here where we have some text properties. Now, this window will look different. It all depends on how many layers of text may be in the text that you entered. First of all, there's a color palette. You can see my color is white. So if I choose this, it's just going to change the color of your text. Pretty simple. So you can see the different colors, however you want it to look. Go back to white. Custom message. So if I wanted to type in something different, you can see there we have. Font. This has a lot of fonts that are basically part of the Wevideo program. So you can see some are really cool, fancy, thicker fonts. So really neat to choose, very graphic intense. So there can be some nice fonts that you can utilize here. Here's the size. Right now it's on auto, so I'm going to switch to manual. And inside of here, I'm going to hold the mouse down. You can see this is kind of how you get the font size. You want a different size, highlight it and type in 200. And it will change the size for you. So if I go back to auto, it'll resize it back to its normal size. So once you are done editing, if you want the changes, just click save. I'll just hit cancel because you can see what those do. Now let's go back to this one clip. There's also an option in here, second one, that's called open opacity. If you click it, it's just a bubble. So you can see you have an option here to change the opacity. Right now there's no changes. If I click on fade, you can see 1 second in, 1 second out. You can adjust it by dragging the sliders in here. Or when you go back into here, you can see the modification here. You can also type in numbers if you want to. All right, so I'll leave it as that. So I'll go ahead and click off of it. The other option is the FX, special effects. Now, when you click it on this, the cool thing about this window is when you point to each one, it's going to kind of split your view to see what the effect actually does. There's not a lot in here, but depending on what you want to do, especially video or an image, this can give a very neat effect to what you're doing. Again, don't have all the options like you would see in a Dreamweaver program. Then last thing you can do, every one of these has a little delete option. So you can see the little trash can, or of course, if something is selected, pressing the delete key will delete it right off of the timeline. Now, I'm going to bounce over to this second one, because this text, no matter of fact, I'll just double click it. this text has 3 different layers. This is the way it was designed. So when I go to the color palette, there's 2 colors, but you'll notice if I choose red, they'll all change. This is for the background. So you can see how that is designed. But these may work differently depending on what is over in your preview area. If you want to change the text or the font for each one, I'll go to the middle one. I'll choose a different font and you can see how it works. If you want to change the font size, go to manual and adjust it the way you need to. So depending on what is in this text, you will have different options here.